Hey guys, Marcus Taylor here. So in this video we'll be talking about the anatomy of a high converting form. In other words, what is it that separates good forms from great forms? And I'll be sharing with you a case study on a lead capture form that I built over 3 years ago that's been converting at 40.67% for the past 3 years. And what's really surprising about this form is that it shouldn't convert so well. It's a really ugly looking form, and it really surprised me to see it converting so well. So I'll dig into some of the insights around why I believe it's converting so well and how you can apply them to your lead capture forms so that you can capture more leads from your website. Before we jump into that though, I just want to let you know we're running a contest at the moment to give away 2 free lifetime accounts of Leadformly, which will enable you to capture more leads, easily build high converting lead capture forms to capture more leads from your website. All you need to do to enter the contest is leave a comment below explaining why you believe Leadformly would be perfect for your business. So whether it would save you time, help you capture more leads, or whatever reason you think Leadformly would help your business, just write us a comment below, and I'll be picking 2 comments at random on Wednesday and giving those 2 people free lifetime accounts of Leadformly. So leave your comments below, and we'll jump into the anatomy of high converting forms. Okay, so to understand what separates good forms from great forms, I want to introduce you to a concept that we came up with called the form optimization pyramid. So this is kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs applied to forms. So there are 5 different factors that we found influence how well a form performs. Starting with motivation. So the foundation of this pyramid is how motivated your users are to fill out your forms. Now, when we think about this, people don't fill out forms to generate leads for your business. People are trying to achieve some kind of outcome. And behind this action of using your form, there's a degree of motivation. They're trying to achieve something. And the strength of that motivation, or the intensity of that motivation, has a huge impact on your conversion rate. A good example of this would be if you were to hypothetically give away a free Ferrari to everyone that used your form, you would probably have a 100% conversion rate because the motivation and the desire to use your form would be so high. You wouldn't then need to worry about things like usability and design as much because people would be so motivated to fill out the form. Next, we have ability. So this is whether people can physically use your form. So this is not just technical things like bugs. I'm also talking about things like, if you use the form on a mobile device out in the sunshine, can people actually see the fields, or is the color too light? Can people who are colorblind use it? Is it accessible to people who are deaf or blind, or various other disabilities? All of these things impact accessibility and whether people can actually use your forms. The next layer is peace of mind. So as an example, a couple of days ago I was using a form that asked for my address when it had no reason really to ask for my address. So I started to think, okay, well, does this mean that these guys are going to be sending me things in the post? Why am I being asked to give my address? So that's peace of mind. Like, are there things that you're asking your users that are causing them to question why you're asking them, or other things that might impede on whether people would trust your website or filling out your forms? The next layer is ease. So this is when we get into things like reducing the number of questions that are being asked. The less questions that we're asking, or the easier it is to fill out the forms, the higher our conversion rate is going to be, generally speaking. So there are also things here like changing the question types to make them easier. One thing that we use a lot in the Leadformly forms is using image select questions, where the user just has to click an image to answer that question. These are much better than drop-down questions, because for a drop-down you'd have to click the drop-down box, select the answer, and then click out of the drop-down box, which means you have to click 3 times to answer one question. Whereas with an image select, you just need to click once. So that reduces the cognitive load, making it easier. The final part of the pyramid is engagement. So this is what really separates good forms from great forms. Most forms are not very engaging, and it might seem a bit unusual to use a word like engagement and applying it to forms. But there are some of the best forms that I've seen don't actually look like forms. They don't feel like forms. They feel more like tools or quizzes. And this is kind of, in my mind, the pinnacle of lead capture form design. So engagement is really about creating a form that almost feels more like an engaging experience for the end user, where perhaps it feels more like they're using a tool or filling out a quiz. Because when we think about it, a quiz is really, it's really just a form that has been made engaging and fun, and people pay for quizzes. When ultimately it's still just a form that you're filling out to then achieve an outcome for fun. So making forms more quiz-like or gamified, that is, from my experience looking at studying all these high converting forms, is what separates the good forms from the great forms. So let's look at an example of this. So about 3 years ago, I built the website whatismycomfortzone.com, which is just a fun app that people can use to measure the size of their comfort zones. Now, when I built this website, I really wasn't kind of thinking about conversion, and I whipped up this lead capture form, which had 30 questions, and it was really bad design. Honestly, looked like it came from the 90s. And I was kind of expecting maybe this would convert at around 2 to 3%. Nothing, very, very average based on the number of questions I was asking and how bad the form looked. But I realized that this form was converting at over 40%. And over the past 3 years, the average conversion rate has been 40.67%, which means that almost 1 in 2 people that visit the website use this form, which, as I said, has over 30 questions. And takes, I think the average time using this form is about 6 minutes. So it's not an easy form to use, yet so many people use it. Why? Well, the things that I just mentioned in the form optimization pyramid, it really gets that first one right. There's a really high degree of motivation to use this form because people are really curious about it. When people hear about a comfort zone calculator, they want to know what their comfort zone score is. Perhaps if they see a link on Twitter from one of their friends that has just used this tool, they're really curious to see how they compare to their friend. So there's a really surprisingly strong degree of motivation to use this tool. Ability. Although I said the design doesn't look very nice, it's very usable, and unintentionally, it does work with many of the best accessibility practices. So you're able to use it as an end user. And then the next phase, peace of mind. This is an area where we didn't really. I think this is perhaps the area that we score worse on, because we were actually asking questions like annual income, phone number, email address, a lot of sensitive information that we really perhaps didn't need to ask, which perhaps kind of hindered our conversion rate slightly. But because the motivation was so high, I think people were then happy to provide us with this information. The next phase, ease. Well, we certainly didn't make it easy. This was a very long form. But again, because we got those core parts of the form right, I believe that kind of countered the ease of the form. And then finally, engagement. Well, engagement I think we did really well, because the user was getting instant value from using our form. They were receiving their comfort zone score, which they had a strong motivation to find out because of their curiosity. And so this I don't think people really use this thinking of it as a lead capture form. It very much felt like a quiz or a kind of a tool that people were using to learn something about themselves. So because we were providing immediate value to the users, it felt less like a lead capture form, and I think that's one of the reasons why it converted so well. And that's something that I've learned and seen more and more over the past few years is organizations using these quiz-like tools as lead capture. I know HubSpot have their marketing grader, which I believe converts very well. Compare the Market, and many insurance companies have these instant quote generators, which again work really well. I'm starting to see a lot of broadband and energy companies building them as well. And I believe this is kind of where lead capture forms are heading. I think in perhaps 2 or 3 years, I don't think we're going to see so many of those boxes asking for name, email, phone number. I think it's going to be more engaging, giving the users immediate value for giving their information. So I hope that's been really useful. There's a lot more, if you want to dive a bit deeper, there's a lot more information in the free guide below, which includes checklists that you can evaluate your forms on all of the points I just mentioned. The ability section in that document is actually really useful because it goes through many of the common disabilities as well as different accessibility points that you want to make sure your form is working for. So I'd recommend downloading that guide, and remember to leave us a comment in the comments below if you want to enter the contest to win a free lifetime account of Lead Formally. Awesome. Hope this has been useful, guys, and catch you soon.